Jake Sullivan sat in the cold metal chair and watched his dreams die. The huge room around him buzzed with angry alien voices. Creatures with too many eyes stared at him. Things with sharp teeth clicked and hissed. Some aliens looked like walking trees. Others glowed with strange light. This was supposed to be humanity's big day. Earth's first chance to join the Galactic Confederation. Jake had spent 2 years getting ready for this moment. He knew every alien custom. He had practiced their languages until his throat hurt. He brought Earth's best gifts and newest technology. None of it mattered now. The humans are too violent, said Ambassador Crix from the Zephyrian Empire. His blue skin shimmered as he spoke. They fight wars over small pieces of land. They cannot be trusted with star travel. Jake wanted to argue. He wanted to explain that humans had learned from their mistakes. But the rules said he could only speak when asked a direct question. No one was asking him anything. Look at their primitive ships, laughed Commander Vex from the Crystalline Collective. Her body was made of living crystal that rang like bells when she moved. They still use chemical rockets. My children build better toys. More laughter filled the chamber. Jake felt his face get hot with anger and shame. Behind him, he heard Lisa Park shift in her seat. She was Earth's best expert on alien cultures. Even she looked worried now. Captain Ben Hayes sat perfectly still in his military uniform. Jake could see the muscle in his jaw working. Ben was a good soldier, but this was not a battle they could fight with guns. The vote began. One by one, each alien species announced their decision. Jake listened to the translator. In his ear turned their strange words into cold. English, the Torvan Republic votes no. The Silicate Union votes no. The Voidwalkers vote no. Jake stopped counting. After the 20th rejection. There were over 800 species in the Confederation. Each one was saying the same thing. Humans were not welcome. The Aquatic Alliance votes no. The Hive Minds vote no. The Energy Beings vote no. Lisa leaned forward and whispered, Jake, maybe we should leave. This is getting ugly. Jake shook his head. Earth had sent him here to represent all of humanity. He would not run away no matter how bad this got. His job was to sit here and take whatever they gave him. Then go home and report the truth. The truth was that Earth was alone. The machine. Collective votes no. The Plasma Lords vote no. The Shadow Realm votes no. Some aliens were not even bothering to give reasons anymore. They just wanted humans to go away. Jake wondered if coming here had been a mistake. Maybe Earth should have stayed hidden for another 100 years. Maybe they were not ready for this, but it was too late now. The whole galaxy knew about Earth. There was no going back. The Dreamweavers vote no. The Starforge Empire votes no. The Dimensional Guards vote no. Ben Hayes reached over and put his hand on Jake's shoulder. It was a small gesture, but it helped. Jake was not alone in this room. He had his team with him. Whatever happened, they would face it together. The final vote came from the ancient ethereals. Nobody knew much about them. They were older than most civilizations. They rarely spoke in council meetings. When they did vote, other species usually followed their lead. The ethereal representative was completely hidden under a dark robe. Jake could not even tell what shape they were. When the creature spoke, its voice sounded like wind through empty caves. The ethereal collective abstains from this vote. That was it. Not yes, not no. Just nothing. Jake felt a tiny spark of hope die in his chest. Even the mysterious ethereals would not help humanity. The final count appeared on screens around the chamber. Jake did not need the translator to understand numbers. Against 847-40, abstain. 12, it was the worst defeat in Confederation history. No species had ever been rejected so completely. Most applications got at least a few sympathy votes. Humanity got nothing. The chamber started to empty. Aliens filed out through doors that resized themselves for each species. Some looked at Jake with pity. Others seemed amused. A few looked angry, as if humans had wasted their time by even asking. Jake stood up slowly. His legs felt weak. Lisa and Ben flanked him as they walked toward the exit. Nobody spoke to them. Nobody looked at them. It was like they had become invisible. The hallway outside was long and white. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. Jake thought about the long trip back to Earth. He thought about explaining this failure to the President, to Congress, to all the people who had believed in this mission. How do you tell 7 billion people that the galaxy does not want them? They reached Jake's quarters an hour later. The room was small but comfortable. Earth had rented it for 3 months expecting long negotiations. Now they would be leaving in the morning. Jake sat on his bed and put his head in his hands. Lisa started packing her files. Ben checked their travel arrangements. Everyone moved like they were walking through water. "I do not understand," Lisa said quietly. "Our cultural assessments were perfect. We followed every protocol. We offered fair trade agreements." "Maybe that was the problem," Ben replied. "Maybe they do not want fair deals. Maybe they want to keep us out." Jake was about to answer when the door chimed. All 3 humans froze. Nobody had visited them since the vote. Jake wondered if station security was coming to escort them out early. He opened the door and found a figure in a dark hooded cloak. The corridor was empty except for this one visitor. Jake could not see the person's face, but something about them seemed familiar. "Commander Sullivan," the figure said in a woman's voice. "May I enter? We need to talk." Jake looked back at his team. Ben's hand moved toward his sidearm, but Jake shook his head. Whatever this was about, violence would only make things worse for Earth. "Come in," Jake said. The woman stepped inside and Ben closed the door behind her. She stood in the center of the small room and slowly lowered her hood. Jake's breath caught in his throat. The woman was an ethereal. Her skin was pale silver and seemed to glow with its own light. Her eyes were deep purple and very old. This was Zareth, one of the highest-ranking ethereals in the Confederation. "Commander Sullivan," she said again. Her voice was soft but carried strange echoes. "They fear you more than you know." Jake found his voice. "What do you mean?" Zareth looked at each human in turn. Her ancient eyes seemed to see right through them. When she spoke again, her words changed everything Jake thought he knew about humanity's place in the galaxy. "The rejection today was not about your weaknesses," she said. "It was about your strengths. And if you are willing to listen, I can give you more than they ever will." Jake stared at the ethereal woman. Her words made no sense. How could humanity's rejection be about their strengths? Every alien in that chamber had called humans weak and primitive. "I do not understand," Jake said. Zareth moved to the center of the room. Her silver skin seemed to pulse with soft light. "May I show you something? It will not hurt, but you might find it disturbing." Ben stepped forward. "Ma'am, with respect, we have had enough surprises for one day." Zareth looked at the soldier with her ancient purple eyes. "Captain Hayes, you carry a sidearm that fires projectiles at 1,000 meters per second. But yesterday you modified it to work with Confederation power cells. No other species has ever done that so quickly." Ben's face went white. That modification was classified. He had done it in his private workshop, just to see if it was possible. "Nobody should know about it. How did you—" Ben started to ask. "We know many things," Zareth said. "We have been watching your species for longer than you realize. And what we have seen terrifies the Confederation leadership." She reached into her robes and pulled out a small device. It looked like a crystal wrapped in metal wires. When she touched it, the air above the device shimmered and formed a 3-dimensional image. The image showed a huge room filled with computers and alien workers. Words in different languages scrolled across screens. Jake recognized it as some kind of data center. "This is the Confederation Intelligence Division," Zareth explained. "They have been studying humanity for 50 years. Ever since your first radio signals reached other star systems." The image changed. Now it showed charts and graphs with human figures on them. Jake could see population numbers, technology levels, and growth rates. "At first, they thought humans were just another primitive species," Zareth continued. "But then strange things started happening. Human spacecraft began appearing in systems where they should not exist. Your trade ships started finding routes that had been hidden for centuries." Lisa leaned forward. "But our ships are slow. We can barely reach the nearest stars." "Yes, but your crews think differently than other species. Captain Maria Santos found a gravitational shortcut that cut travel time to Alpha Centauri by 60%. Engineer Danny Kim figured out how to make fusion reactors 30% more efficient. Dr. Helen Cruz created new alloys that resist space radiation better than anything in Confederation databases." The images kept changing, showing human achievements that Jake had never heard of. Ships that moved faster than they should. Weapons that hit harder than their size suggested. Technologies that worked in ways alien scientists could not explain. "Every time humans touch alien technology, you improve it," Zareth said. "Every time you see an alien solution, you find a better way. This has never happened before in galactic history." Ben was studying the data with professional interest. These numbers cannot be right. We have only been in space for 100 years. That is exactly the problem, Zarath replied. Most species take 10,000 years to develop basic space travel. Humans did it in less than a century. Most species need another 5,000 years to reach other star systems. Humans did it in 50 years. Jake felt something cold in his stomach. You are saying we advance too fast? I am saying you advance at an impossible rate. The Confederation's best analysts ran computer models of human development. Do you know what they found? The image changed again. This time it showed a timeline stretching into the future. Human expansion spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Other species' territories shrank and disappeared. If humans gain full access to Confederation technology and resources, you will dominate the entire galaxy within 200 years. Not through conquest, but through simple superiority. You will outbuild, outthink, and outperform every other civilization. The room was silent. Jake looked at his teammates and saw the same shock on their faces. This was not what they had expected to hear. But we are peaceful, Lisa protested. We came here asking for friendship, not dominance. Zarath's expression softened slightly. I know, that is what makes this situation so dangerous. Humans do not seek to rule others, but your natural abilities make it inevitable. Every other species knows this now. She touched the device again and the images disappeared. The vote today was coordinated months in advance. Every major power agreed that humanity must be contained on Earth. They believe this will give them time to find a solution. What kind of solution? Jake asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Some want to limit human access to advanced technology. Others want to monitor all human activities in space. A few extremist factions believe humans should be eliminated entirely. Ben's hand moved toward his weapon again. Are you threatening us? No, Captain. I am warning you. The Confederation leadership has already approved increased surveillance of Earth. They are planning new restrictions on human space travel. If humans continue to advance too quickly, more drastic measures will be authorized. Jake felt anger rising in his chest. So we are supposed to stay primitive forever? Just to make other species feel safe? That is one option, Zarath said. But there is another choice. The ethereals have been part of this galaxy for 50,000 years. We have guided the development of countless civilizations. We have prevented wars, shared knowledge, and maintained peace. She paused and looked directly at Jake. But we are dying. Our population has been declining for millennia. Soon there will be no ethereals left to guide galactic civilization. We need successors, Lisa understood first. You want humans to replace you. Not replace. Inherit. The ethereals possess technologies and knowledge that surpass anything in the Confederation. We have access to dimensions beyond normal space. We can manipulate time itself on small scales. We understand the fundamental forces that hold the galaxy together. Zarath stepped closer to Jake. If humans accept our inheritance, you will gain power that makes Confederation technology look primitive. You will have the resources to protect yourselves from any threat. You will become the new guardians of galactic civilization. And in return, Jake asked, you help us transfer our consciousness into quantum storage before our bodies fail completely. You preserve ethereal knowledge and wisdom for future generations. You take responsibility for maintaining peace and order in the galaxy. Ben shook his head. This sounds too good to be true. What is the catch? Zarath was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was very soft. The catch is that there is no going back. If humans accept the ethereal inheritance, you can never again be just another species. You will become something new. Something beyond what you are now. She looked at each human in turn. Your governments do not know about this offer. Your people do not know what they are capable of becoming. The choice must be made by individuals who understand the full consequences. Jake felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. This was bigger than the failed vote. This was about the entire future of humanity. Why us? He asked. Why not approach our leaders directly? Because leaders think about politics and public opinion. They would want committees and studies and long debates. By then, the Confederation might have acted against Earth. Time is running short. Zarath moved toward the door. I will give you 1 day to decide. If you accept, I will take you to see the full scope of what the ethereals can offer. If you refuse, I will respect your choice and humanity will face its future alone. She put her hood back up, hiding her glowing features. Think carefully, Commander Sullivan. The galaxy has offered humanity nothing but rejection and containment. I can give you more than they ever will. But the price is everything you think you know about your place in the universe. With that, she was gone. The door closed behind her with a soft whisper, leaving the three humans alone with an impossible choice. Jake sat down heavily on his bed. Outside the window, alien ships moved through space like glowing fish in a dark ocean. Somewhere out there, the Confederation was making plans to keep humanity locked away on one small planet. But maybe, just maybe, there was another path, a path that led to the stars and beyond. Jake made his choice at dawn. He found Zareth waiting in the observation deck where few aliens ever went. She stood perfectly still looking out at the stars. Her silver skin caught the light from distant suns. "I accept," Jake said simply. Zareth turned to face him. Her ancient purple eyes seemed to glow brighter. "Are you certain? There will be no returning to your old life after this. The Confederation made it clear that humans have no future in this galaxy. At least your offer gives us a chance, and your companions?" Jake looked back toward his quarters. Lisa and Ben had argued with him for hours. In the end, they understood. Someone had to take this risk for humanity's sake. "Lisa and Ben will return to Earth with the official report. I will come with you," Zareth nodded. "That is wise. Your people should know about the Confederation's true feelings, even if they cannot know about this offer yet." She led Jake through corridors he had never seen before. The walls here were different, made of some material that seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Other ethereals passed them in the hallways, but none spoke or looked at Jake directly. They reached a docking bay that was completely empty except for one ship. Jake had seen many alien vessels, but this one was unlike anything he could imagine. It looked like it was made of crystallized starlight. The hull curved in ways that hurt his eyes to follow. "Ethereal ships exist partially outside normal space," Zareth explained as they boarded. "This allows us to travel between dimensions as well as between stars." The interior of the ship was even stranger than the outside. Walls curved in directions that should not exist. Gravity seemed to work differently in each room. Jake felt dizzy trying to understand the geometry. "Do not try to analyze it with human logic," Zareth advised. "Let your mind adapt naturally. Humans are remarkably good at this." The journey to Ethereal Prime took 3 days, though time seemed to flow strangely inside the ship. Jake ate food that tasted like memories and slept in a bed that adjusted to his dreams. By the 3rd day, the impossible architecture started to make sense to him. When they arrived, Jake understood why the Ethereals were so confident about human potential. Ethereal Prime was a world that existed in 7 dimensions at once. Cities floated in the air without any visible support. Buildings grew like living things, expanding and contracting based on need. The sky showed 3 different star patterns depending on which direction you looked. "Welcome to our home," Zareth said as they landed. "What you see here took us 40,000 years to build. Most species could not even perceive it, let alone understand it. Jake could perceive it. More than that, he could begin to understand the principles behind it. His human brain, trained in 3-dimensional thinking, somehow grasped the multidimensional concepts that governed ethereal technology. "This is impossible," he whispered. "For most species, yes. For humans, apparently not." Zareth led him through streets that existed on multiple levels of reality. "Come, there are others you should meet." They reached a building that seemed to be made of crystallized thought. Inside, Jake found 2 other humans working with ethereal technology. His heart nearly stopped when he recognized them. Dr. Amy Collins? Jake could not believe his eyes. Amy was Earth's top xenobiologist. She was supposed to be on Earth working in her laboratory. Amy looked up from a device that seemed to be part machine and part living tissue. "Hello, Jake. Surprised to see me?" "But when?" "I was recruited 6 months ago," Amy explained. "My application to study Confederation biotechnology was rejected, just like yours was. But the Ethereals had a different offer." The second human was a man Jake did not recognize. He was tall and muscular, with scars on his hands that spoke of hard work and fighting. "Ryan Murphy," the man introduced himself. "Former Marine. The Corps thinks I died in a training accident." "You faked your death?" Jake asked. "The Ethereals needed to test human compatibility with their combat systems," Ryan explained. "Turns out humans have an intuitive grasp of multi-dimensional warfare that even surprises them." Zareth gestured to the work area around them. "Both of your colleagues have exceeded our expectations." Dr. Collins has advanced our biotechnology by centuries, in just 6 months. Sergeant Murphy has mastered weapons systems that take other species decades to understand. Jake looked around the laboratory. He could see devices that combined biology and technology in ways that should not work. Plants that grew computer circuits. Machines that responded to thoughts instead of commands. Everything here was far beyond anything Earth could imagine. How many of us are there? Jake asked. 12 humans in total, Amy replied. Each recruited secretly over the past year. The ethereals needed to be sure that human compatibility was not just a fluke. It is not, Zarath confirmed. Every human we have tested shows the same remarkable adaptability. Your species learns our technology faster than we do ourselves. She led them deeper into the building, to a room that hurt Jake's mind to look at. The walls seemed to exist in multiple locations at once. In the center of the room stood a pillar of pure energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. This is the convergence core, Zarath explained. It contains the sum total of ethereal knowledge and consciousness. 50,000 years of scientific advancement, cultural wisdom, and technological innovation. Jake stared at the pillar. He could feel something radiating from it. Not heat or light, but something deeper. It was like standing next to the collected thoughts of an entire civilization. To complete your training, you must undergo the convergence trial. Zarath continued. Your consciousness will be temporarily merged with the core. You will experience our history, understand our technology, and see possible futures for both our species. Is it dangerous? Jake asked. For most species, yes. The trial would destroy their minds completely. But human neural patterns are uniquely flexible. You should be able to survive the process and retain what you learn. Ryan stepped forward. I went through it 2 weeks ago. It changes you, but not in a bad way. You start to see connections between things that were invisible before. Amy nodded. The trial showed me biological possibilities I never imagined. I understand now why the Confederation fears human potential. Jake looked at the pillar of energy. This was the moment of truth. Everything that came after would depend on what he learned in the next few minutes. I'm ready, he said. Zarath placed her hand on Jake's shoulder. Remember, the trial will show you many possible futures. Some beautiful, some terrible. What matters is that all of them are real possibilities. Humanity's choices will determine which future comes to pass. Jake stepped toward the pillar. As soon as he touched it, the world exploded into light and sensation. His consciousness expanded beyond his body, beyond the room, beyond the planet. He saw the birth of the first ethereal civilization. He watched them discover the secrets of multidimensional space. He experienced their first contact with other species, their attempts to guide younger civilizations. Then he saw the futures. In one timeline, humanity remained on Earth, slowly declining under Confederation restrictions, until they became just another minor species begging for scraps of technology. In another, humans accepted ethereal inheritance and became wise guardians of galactic peace, using their rapid development to help other species reach their potential. But there was a third timeline that made Jake's blood run cold. In this future, humans gained power too quickly and without wisdom. They spread across the galaxy like a plague, consuming everything in their path. Other species fought back in desperation, leading to a war that destroyed entire solar systems. When the vision ended, Jake found himself on the floor of the laboratory. Amy and Ryan were helping him sit up. Zarath knelt beside him, her ancient eyes full of concern. What did you see? She asked. Jake struggled to put the experience into words. I saw why the Confederation fears us. I saw why you need us, and I saw what happens if we make the wrong choices. The trial shows truth, not predetermined fate, Zarath explained. Humans have the potential for great wisdom or great destruction. The choice is yours. Jake stood up slowly. His mind felt different now, expanded in ways he could not fully understand. He could perceive the multidimensional structure of the building around them. He could sense the flow of energy through ethereal technology. But most importantly, he could see the path forward. We need to return to Earth, he said. My people need to know what is coming. The Confederation will not wait much longer before taking action against us. Zarath nodded gravely. Yes, our sources indicate that a military fleet is already being assembled. They plan to impose restrictions on human space travel within the next few months. Then we are running out of time, Jake replied.
How long will it take to transfer the ethereal inheritance to enough humans to make a difference?
With the right preparations, we could transfer key technologies and knowledge to several hundred humans within a few weeks. But this would require cooperation from Earth's governments. Jake thought about the politicians and military leaders back home. They would be skeptical, frightened, and slow to act. Humanity might not have time for careful deliberation. There might be another way, he said. What if we do not wait for official approval? What if we start with volunteers who are already in space? Amy caught on immediately. Human ships and crews already in the outer. The alarm woke Jake from the deepest sleep he had ever known. Red lights flashed through the ethereal facility as emergency signals blared in frequencies that made his teeth ache. Zarath burst into his room without waiting for permission. Her silver skin was pale with fear. "Commander Sullivan, we have a problem. A very big problem." Jake pulled on his clothes and followed her to the command center. The room was full of ethereals working at stations that seemed to grow from the floor. Holographic displays showed star maps and ship positions across the galaxy. "What is happening?" Jake asked. "The Confederation Security Council held an emergency session 6 hours ago," Zarath explained. "They have declared humanity a Level 5 galactic threat." Jake felt ice in his stomach. "What does that mean?" An older ethereal with golden skin turned from his station. "It means they have authorized immediate military action against Earth. A fleet is already moving toward your solar system." The main display changed to show the approaching armada. Jake counted hundreds of ships from dozens of different species. Massive Zephyrian battleships with energy weapons that could crack planets. Crystalline collective vessels that could phase in and out of normal space. Fourth-act dreadnoughts bristling with missile launchers. "How long until they reach Earth?" Jake asked. 48 hours, the golden ethereal replied. "Maybe less if they use dimensional shortcuts." Jake stared at the display in horror. Earth's defenses were primitive compared to this fleet. Humanity had a few dozen military ships scattered across the outer planets. They might delay the invasion for a few hours at most. "Can we warn them?" Jake asked. "Standard communication would take weeks to reach Earth," Zarath said. "But we have faster methods. The question is whether your leaders will believe the warning." Amy and Ryan appeared at Jake's side. Both looked grim after seeing the tactical display. "How did they find out about the ethereal program?" Amy asked. "They did not," Zarath replied. "This action is based on fear alone. The Confederation leadership decided that humanity's rapid advancement made immediate containment necessary." "Containment?" Ryan's voice was dangerous. "What kind of containment?" The golden ethereal manipulated the display to show detailed invasion plans. Orbital bombardment of all human space installations. Destruction of spacecraft manufacturing facilities. Occupation of Earth's major population centers. "They plan to bomb us back to the Stone Age," Jake whispered. "No," Zarath corrected. "They plan to keep humans at early industrial levels permanently. Advanced enough to be useful as laborers, but not advanced enough to pose a threat." Jake felt rage building in his chest. The Confederation had rejected humanity's friendship, and now they wanted to make humans into slaves. "We have to stop this," he said. "How?" Amy asked. "We have a dozen humans with partial ethereal training against a fleet of hundreds of warships. We accelerate the inheritance process," Jake replied. "Transfer ethereal technology to human forces in the solar system right now." Zarath shook her head. "Impossible. The process requires weeks of careful preparation. Trying to rush it could kill the subjects or drive them insane." "Then we find another way," Jake said firmly. "You told me humans adapt faster than any other species. Let us prove it." The golden ethereal stepped forward. "There is one possibility. We could establish a quantum link with human forces in your solar system. This would allow limited transfer of ethereal knowledge and technology without full convergence." "What are the risks?" Ryan asked. "For humans, unknown. No other species has ever attempted quantum linkage across interstellar distances. It could work perfectly, or it could fry your brains instantly." Jake looked at his companions. Amy was already nodding. Ryan's expression was grim but determined. They all understood the choice. Take a risk that might kill them, or watch their entire species become slaves. "Do it," Jake said. The next few hours were a blur of preparation. The ethereals worked frantically to modify their quantum communication systems for human neural patterns. Jake, Amy, and Ryan underwent rapid conditioning to prepare their minds for the linkage process. "Remember," Zarath warned as they entered the modified convergence chamber, You will be connecting to human minds that have no preparation for this experience. You must be very careful how much information you transfer. Jake nodded and took his place at one of the quantum transmitters. The device looked like a helmet made of crystallized thought. When he put it on, he could feel his consciousness expanding across space. The first connection was with Captain Patricia Stone, commander of the orbital defense platform around Mars. Jake felt her surprise and confusion as their minds touched. "Who is this?" her thoughts asked. "This is Commander Jake Sullivan," he replied.
"I am transmitting from outside the solar system."
"Earth is about to be invaded by alien forces." He felt her disbelief, then growing alarm as he transferred tactical data about the approaching fleet. Through the quantum link, Jake could share not just information but actual understanding. Patricia began to grasp ethereal technologies that could be adapted to human systems. "My God," her thoughts whispered. "These weapon modifications, they could increase our firepower by 300%. "Start implementing them immediately," Jake urged. "You have less than 2 days." Meanwhile, Amy was linking with Dr. Kevin Walsh at the Lunar Research Station. She transferred advanced biotechnology that could enhance human reflexes and reaction times. Within minutes, Kevin understood principles that should have taken years to learn. Ryan connected with Admiral Chris Parker aboard the battleship New Horizon near Jupiter. The old soldier grasped ethereal tactical concepts with frightening speed. Jake could feel Ryan's satisfaction as the Admiral began plotting defensive strategies that used multidimensional thinking. But the connections were taking their toll. Jake felt his consciousness stretching thin across the vast distances. Each human mind he touched pulled at his own awareness. Blood ran from his nose as neural feedback built up in the quantum transmitters. "Jake, you need to stop," Amy warned. "The strain is too great." "Not yet," Jake gasped. "A few more connections. We need every advantage we can get." He reached out to General Mark Stevens at the Titan military base. The transfer of ethereal shield technology nearly made Jake black out, but he felt Stevens' amazement as he realized what was possible. One last connection. Captain Nicole Davis aboard the research vessel Discovery near Neptune. Jake barely managed to transfer basic multidimensional navigation before his mind snapped back to his own body. He collapsed on the floor of the convergence chamber, unconscious. When Jake woke up 6 hours later, Amy and Ryan were beside his bed. Both looked exhausted but alert. "How many did we reach?" Jake asked weakly. 37 key personnel across the solar system, Amy reported. The quantum links held long enough to transfer essential technologies and tactical knowledge. "And the fleet?" Ryan's expression was grim. "Still coming. But now we have a chance. Admiral Parker has already begun implementing ethereal defensive strategies. Captain Stone has modified the Mars defense platforms with new weapon systems." Jake tried to sit up but felt dizzy. "It is not enough. Even with ethereal technology, we are still outnumbered 100 to 1. "Maybe," Ryan said. "But humans have one advantage the Confederation does not expect." "What is that?" "We do not fight fair." Zareth entered the medical bay carrying a communication device. "Commander Sullivan, we are receiving reports from your solar system. Your Admiral Parker is requesting more information about dimensional warfare tactics." Jake took the device with shaking hands. "This is Sullivan." "Report, Admiral." Parker's voice was tight with stress but determined. "Jake, we have implemented the shield modifications on 6 ships and both Mars platforms. The weapon upgrades are taking longer, but we should have them online within 12 hours. What about the civilian population? We are evacuating major cities to underground shelters. President Rodriguez has declared martial law and activated all reserve forces. But Jake, we need to know what we are really facing here." Jake looked at Zareth, who nodded permission. "Admiral, the fleet approaching us has over 400 warships from 30 different species. They have weapons that can destroy planets and shields that can absorb nuclear explosions. This is not a police action. They want to conquer Earth." There was silence on the channel for a long moment. "Then they are going to be disappointed," Parker replied, "because humans do not surrender. Ever." Jake smiled despite the pain in his head. That was exactly the attitude that made the Confederation fear humanity. "How long until they arrive?" Jake asked. 18 hours. "But Jake, we have one more problem. Long-range sensors are detecting something else approaching from the opposite direction." "What kind of something?" "Another fleet. Smaller, but using technology we do not recognize. They will arrive about the same time as the Confederation force." Jake felt his heart sink. Reinforcements? Unknown. But Jake, some of their ships matched the design of that vessel you arrived in yesterday. Jake looked at Zarath with sudden hope. Are you sending help? The ethereal woman smiled for the first time since the crisis began. Commander Sullivan, did you think we would let humanity face this alone? The ethereal fleet is small, but our ships exist in 7 dimensions. We have been preparing for this war for longer than the Confederation realizes. Jake felt strength. The battle for Earth began at dawn on a Tuesday. Jake stood in the command center aboard Zarath's ship as it dropped out of dimensional space near Neptune. Through the viewing ports, he could see the Confederation fleet spreading across the outer solar system like a metal plague. Hundreds of alien warships moved in perfect formation toward the inner planets, but they were not alone. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids and moons where they had been hiding. The New Horizon emerged from Jupiter's radiation shadow, its hull gleaming with new ethereal armor plating. The Mars defense platforms powered up weapons that glowed with impossible colors. Captain Davis's research vessel Discovery suddenly became visible near Pluto, its stealth systems now enhanced with ethereal phase technology. All human forces. This is Admiral Parker, the communication system crackled. Execute Operation Longshot. Jake watched in amazement as the human fleet moved. They were not attacking the main Confederation force directly. Instead, they were using multidimensional tactics that Ryan had shared through the quantum link. Human ships appeared in 3 dimensions while striking from a 4th. They hit supply vessels and command ships while avoiding the main battle line. Clever, Zarath observed. Your species learns quickly. The Confederation fleet tried to respond, but their formations were designed for traditional 3-dimensional warfare. Admiral Parker was fighting a 4-dimensional battle that confused and frustrated the alien commanders, but Jake knew it would not be enough. Even with ethereal enhancements, the human fleet was still vastly outnumbered. They needed something more. Zarath, what about the data files you showed me? The evidence of Confederation suppression? What about them? Can we broadcast them across the galaxy? Show other species what their leaders have been hiding? Zarath's eyes widened. You want to start a revolution in the middle of a battle? I want to level the playing field. She worked quickly at her control station. It will take several minutes to penetrate Confederation communication networks. Are you certain about this? Once that information spreads, there will be no controlling the consequences. Jake watched a human destroyer explode under Zephyrian fire. The consequences of doing nothing are worse. Transmission beginning, Zarath announced. Across the galaxy, the stolen intelligence files began appearing on every communication network. Species that had been kept at junior membership levels for centuries suddenly saw proof of their suppression. The Confederation had hidden trade routes, restricted technology transfers, and manipulated votes to maintain the power of the major civilizations. The reaction was immediate and explosive. On a dozen worlds, junior species began attacking Confederation facilities. Trade networks collapsed as oppressed races refused to honor agreements made under false pretenses. Several species withdrew their ships from the fleet attacking Earth and turned them against their former allies. But the distraction came too late. The main Confederation battle line had reached the asteroid. Belton was closing on. Mars' human defenses were falling back under overwhelming firepower. That was when Zarath made her choice, all ethereal. Vessels, she broadcast. Execute final protocol. Jake felt the ship around him begin to change. The crystalline hull started glowing with power that made his eyes water. Through the viewing ports, he could see other ethereal ships doing the same thing. What is final protocol? Jake asked. Zarath's silver skin was growing brighter as energy flowed through her body. Complete consciousness transfer to quantum storage. We give you everything we are, everything we know, and everything we can become. But that will kill you. Our bodies are dying anyway. This way, our knowledge and wisdom survive in human minds. You become the new ethereals, but with human innovation and adaptability. Jake felt panic rising in his chest. I am not ready for this. None of us are ready. You are more ready than you know, Zarath replied gently. The trial showed you the truth. Humans can become something greater than either of our species alone. The ethereal ships reached the center of the battle and released their stored energy in a wave that swept across the solar system. Jake felt his consciousness expand again, but this time it was different. Instead of temporary connection, this was permanent fusion. 50,000 years of ethereal knowledge flowed into his mind and the minds of every human who had received quantum training. The change was immediate and stunning. Captain Stone at the Mars platform suddenly understood weapons technology that could crack moons. Admiral Parker began seeing tactical possibilities that existed in 11 dimensions. Dr. Walsh at the Lunar Station gained access to biotechnology that could enhance human capabilities beyond anything previously imagined. But more than knowledge was transferred. The Ethereals had given humans their role as guardians of galactic civilization. Jake could feel the responsibility settling on his shoulders like a heavy cloak. The enhanced human fleet struck back with devastating effectiveness. Ships that had been struggling against Confederation forces now moved through space like living things. They appeared and disappeared at will, struck from impossible angles, and used weapons that bent the laws of physics. The tide of battle turned in minutes. Confederation ships began retreating in confusion and panic. They had come to suppress a primitive species and found themselves fighting an enemy that surpassed their understanding. Some vessels surrendered immediately. Others fled toward the edge of the solar system in disorder. Jake stood in the command center and felt the weight of victory. But he also felt something else. Through the quantum network that now connected enhanced humans across the solar system, he could sense the fear of the retreating aliens. "Open a channel to the Confederation fleet," he ordered. "Jake, what are you doing?" Amy's voice came through the quantum link from the lunar station. "Something the old Confederation would never do," Jake replied. "Offering mercy to enemies." The communication system activated and Jake's voice was broadcast to every ship in the solar system. "This is Commander Jake Sullivan of the Terran Ethereal Commonwealth. To all Confederation forces, you are ordered to stand down immediately. Your government sent you here based on lies and fear. We offer safe passage to any ship that ceases hostile action." There was silence for several minutes. Then, one by one, Confederation vessels began powering down their weapons. Some continued to flee, but many stopped and waited. Admiral Crix of the Zephyrian Empire was the first to respond. "Commander Sullivan, we were told that humans intended to conquer the galaxy. We intend to free it," Jake replied. "Your leaders have suppressed dozens of species to maintain their own power. That ends now." Over the next few hours, Jake broadcast the complete intelligence files to every ship in the fleet. He watched through enhanced sensors as alien crews discovered the truth about their own governments. Some wept, others raged. Many asked for asylum rather than return to homeworlds where they would be punished for learning inconvenient truths. 3 days later, Jake stood in the rebuilt council chambers on Nexus Prime. But this time, the meeting was very different. Representatives from over 200 species filled the hall. Many were junior members who had been suppressed for centuries. Others were rebels from major powers who had overthrown their old governments. Lisa Park sat beside him as the new Chief Cultural Exchange Officer for the Commonwealth. She had returned from Earth with authorization to negotiate humanity's new role in galactic affairs. The woman who had once been a minor diplomatic attaché was now one of the most powerful figures in the galaxy. The motion to dissolve the old Confederation and establish the Galactic Commonwealth passes by a vote of 187 to 13, announced the new council president. She was a crystalline being who had led the revolution on her homeworld. After learning the truth about Confederation suppression, Jake felt satisfaction flow through the quantum network that now connected enhanced humans across known space. In 3 days, they had gone from a rejected species to the leaders of a new galactic order. But he also felt the enormous responsibility that came with such power. "Commander Sullivan," the council president continued, "as the inheritor of ethereal authority, you have the right to address the Commonwealth." Jake stood and looked out at the assembled representatives. 3 months ago, these same species had rejected humanity completely. Now they looked to humans for leadership and guidance. "Members of the Commonwealth," Jake began. "The old galaxy was built on fear and suppression. Species were kept weak to make others feel strong. Knowledge was hoarded instead of shared. This ends today." He gestured to the humans scattered throughout the hall. Amy was working with biological research teams from a dozen species. Ryan was training new Commonwealth security forces in multidimensional tactics. Captain Stone was overseeing the integration of ethereal technology into defensive systems across the galaxy, the Terran Ethereal Commonwealth. offers something the old Confederation never could, Jake continued. We offer growth without limits, knowledge without restrictions, potential without fear. A delegate from the Aquatic Alliance raised a tentacle. Commander Sullivan, how do we know you will not become what the old powers were? How do we know you will not suppress us when we become strong enough to challenge you? Jake smiled. It was a fair question, and one he had asked himself many,